Okay, lesson 2.4 is about reasoning in algebra, and our objective is to connect reasoning in algebra and geometry. So first, our key concepts. Today we're talking about the properties of equality. The first is the addition property, which says if A is equal to B, then A plus C is equal to B plus C. Subtraction property says if A is equal to B, then A minus C equals B minus C. Multiplication says if A equals B, then A times C equals B times C. And the division property says if A equals B and C does not equal 0, then A divided by C equals B divided by C. So those are our properties of equality. Next is the reflexive property. Reflexive is kind of the one that I think is self-explanatory. It just says A equals A. It says whatever you have equals itself. Then the symmetric property says if A equals B, then B equals A. You can flip it around. Symmetric. Think about a mirror. The transitive property says if A equals B and B equals C, then we can cut out the middle and we know A equals C. Substitution property says if A equals B, then B can replace A in any expression. We use that to solve a lot of equations in algebra. And finally, the distributive property says A times B plus C is the same as if you write A times B plus A times C. Okay, those are our properties of equality. Then we've got the properties of congruence. These are kind of similar. We've got the reflexive, symmetric, transitive, just like up here in the properties of equality, except now it's saying congruent instead of equal. So reflexive property says if line AB is congruent to line AB. Angle A is congruent to angle A. It still says whatever you have is congruent to itself, just like up here where we had A equals A. Symmetric property says if line AB is congruent to line CD, then line CD is congruent to line AB, the mirror again. If angle A is congruent to angle B, then angle B is congruent to angle A. It's just flipping what you have around. The transitive property says if line AB is congruent to line CD, and line CD is congruent to line EF, again we can cut out the middle, and say line AB is congruent to line EF. Same with angles. If angle A is congruent to angle B is congruent to angle C, then angle A is congruent to angle C. Okay, so now that we've got all these concepts down, let's try some examples. First is justifying steps in solving an equation. So we're just going to justify each step they used in solving 5x minus 12 equals 32 plus x. So first, it looks like they added the 12 over to the 32. Since they added, that's the addition property of equality. It says we can add the same thing to both sides. It won't change the outcome of your answer. Then they subtracted this x over to the other side. So now we have 4x, so that's the subtraction property of equality. Then finally they divided by 4 to get 11, so that's the division property of equality. So when you're solving equations, you can justify every step with a property of equality. Okay, number 2 says justifying steps in solving equations. Suppose that points A, B, and C are collinear, so they put them all on the same line, with point B between points A and C. Solve for x if we know the whole line is 21, AB is 15 minus x, and BC is 4 plus 2x. Justify each step. So we know that AB plus AC equals the whole line. We learned that in chapter 1. It's the segment addition postulate. Remember, you can use your sheet. It should be under resources. You might want to print it for yourself, or you can use your notes. It should be in your notes from chapter 1 as well. All right, segment addition postulate. So then we know that AB is 15 minus x, and BC is 4 plus 2x. And we know AC is 21. This is the substitution property of equality, because all we did was put in the numbers that we know. We substituted things in. Okay, so then we can do 15 plus 4 and get 19. Negative 1x plus 2x is x, and this is still 21. All we did was simplify there, combine a few like terms. Last, we're going to subtract, since this is a positive 19, we're going to subtract it over to the 21, and we're left with 2. And that is the subtraction property of an equality. And now we've solved this equation, we know what x is, and we've written down our reason for every single step we did. Okay, then there's a couple check for understanding problems you're going to try. It says find each missing reason. Line L or ray LM bisects angle KLN. Okay, so right here, this is exactly what was given here, so your reason is just given. All right, then it gives you a hint, definition of something bisector. And from there, you keep looking at the equations and seeing what they did every time and write your reason. Okay, then number 2 says recall that the length of AC is 21, so it's the same line as we had up in example 2. You're going to find the lengths of each piece, so AB and BC, by substituting in x equals 2 and reason through that. Okay, now we're going to do example 3 together. Alright, example 3 says using properties of equality and congruence, name the property that justifies each statement. If x equals y and y plus 4 equals 3x, then x plus 4 equals 3x. The conclusion of the conditional statement is the same as the equation y plus 4 equals 3x, which was given to us after x has been substituted for y. So all they did here is substitute y for x. So they had the equation y plus 4, they changed it to x plus 4. The property used is the substitution property of equality. Alright, then part B, using a new equation. If x plus 4 equals 3x, then 4 equals 2x. The conclusion of the conditional statement shows that the result after x is subtracted from each side. Subtracted from each side of the equation in the hypothesis. The property used is the subtraction property of equality. Okay, part C says if angle P is congruent to angle Q, and angle Q is congruent to angle R, and angle R is congruent to angle S, then angle P is congruent to angle S. Use the transitive property, because that's the one that cuts out the middle stuff. Transitive property of congruence for the first two parts of the hypothesis. If angle P is congruent to angle Q, and angle Q is congruent to angle R, then angle P is congruent to angle R. Use the transitive property again. For angle P is congruent to angle R, and the third part of the hypothesis. If angle P is congruent to angle R and angle R is congruent to angle S, then angle P is congruent to angle S. The property used is the transitive property of congruence. Okay, then you've got a couple more you're going to try on your own. First, you've got the check for understanding 3, name the property of equality of congruence illustrated. So you're just going to pick a property from the list in the key concepts. So first you've got line XY is congruent to line XY, and then the measure of angle A equals 45, 45 equals the measure of angle B, then angle A equals the measure of angle B. You're just going to pick what property is used to show both of those. And that is the lesson for you. So go ahead, get those check for understanding problems done. Make sure you're doing them correctly, and then once you have that done, jump into the homework and make sure you're asking questions if you have them.